in Bodhisattva practices, but in fact I would have nothing to say beyond what Rinpoche had already said. I wouldn't even know how to say anything above that. But since Rinpoche also needs to get some rest, and that's on the program, I will just share a little bit and go a little bit over those 37 practices.
Yeah, so
it begins with Namo Lokeshvaraya, and Lokeshvaraya refers to Chenrezig, so it's an homage, a prostration to Chenrezig.
Dombanik nero doyores, Dorje to Jade Zonzi Wes, then Dorje to Jade Zonzi Sand Carisena, Terin Dota, Drova some gentleman Ton, then you send two Zonduchidot. To Zonshores, Carsena Jena said, Dankora Maton was some gentleman Jizon, Tamjan the Chayora, Consang was Jigmans, Chancho Simping Rodon Chine, then Cora Maton was some gentleman Jijins, or then do that Tony Ninja. That's song you did, Tonda, questions at Nero Sadil. Kazan Tomba needed to control me, but Tomba Nichi, or some gentlemen at Ninji, or that only needed, or that song you did, Tonda, then do that questions at it.
So then it says, so while seeing that, so here the seer is Chenrezig, and so while seeing that all phenomena neither come nor go, you strive solely for the sake of all beings. The first line here, while seeing that all phenomena neither come nor go, that refers to his realization of the empty nature of all phenomena. And then striving solely for the sake of all beings, that is striving for the sake of all sentient beings throughout the 6 periods of day and night. And it was actually Chenrezig's commitment, his vow, to not attain complete enlightenment until all of samsara is emptied. So he appears in the form of Bodhisattva, acting for the benefit of sentient beings for as long as they exist. So these two kind of clauses in one sentence represent the union of emptiness and compassion. So seeing that phenomena neither come nor go refers to the realization of emptiness, the Dharmakaya, that is beyond coming and going. So that's the empty aspect. And then striving solely for the sake of all beings, that's the compassion aspect. So this sentence represents the union of emptiness and compassion.
What a chance is what it in door. Or take Jeton China than the Tensari. Becha China, Jeton Chobar Juba, said Jura, or Chobar Jubat. Jara Becha in a so Jurdin Jurcha, said Jorvik on Chatia. Bechanta Simon Bedinona, Jambi on Chancelos. Do I in a Tamchin about the Chancelos? Then Dodina, Sanjit Chanchos about Chancelos, Tenuno, Song Yura Kazana. Mumbat, so that's it. Doesn't do it to Sanjit Chanchos about the Chavachanek, Sutina, Techire, Stain Duty, Sanjit Chanchos about Chancelos, go down your channel. Or the name Mumbat, so that Jambi young June, listen Jambi young Chancelos. Or the name do at that Tamchin Chamber, Sanjit Konak Jew, race what in the Tamchin Chamber, Chancelos. The Jima Hook, Jero, or touches on the Kona Big, the Dembia Chivas at Tambo. Lots of so Yedamla Karena, Tenda was a chance as was at it. In Ata Jelty, Jero was a Jero stand and reaching their windows, not Yedamadas Mandasungura, the Denos and Pottery, such a and say at the change your chas and one. Tana Chobar Jubas, at the Carisana, that Humboldt and Chobar June, Tangas on the Denchurwa, or the Denchun the Lamar, go to the Chinham Juga, the Lama, the Genas Yermi, but the chance in Chinham Joga. What Yanaki Tangaranso, Carisana, the Denchun the Lamar, Chinham June, Tarsin to Yagopa, you said it. Partimione, the Sochingilamne, or that's in just say, Kuba, you said it.
And then it says, Supreme Guru and Protector Chenrezig, at all times I respectfully pay homage to you with my body, speech, and mind. So here, Supreme Guru and Protector Chenrezig, we are here seeing the one's own root Guru, one's own Guru as indivisible from Chenrezig. And so then we pay homage, we prostrate with our three doors of body, speech, and mind. So we offer physical prostration, and verbally we supplicate, and with our mind we cultivate devotion, inspiration. And so now, according to the scriptures, this is in relation to a customary beginning of a scripture. So there is a custom of beginning text with words of homage. And also then those scriptures that were translated from the Indian language, brought from India, there were certain words of homage in the beginning, and then also some words of commitment of completing the translation. So, for example, there's 3 scripture collections that have been translated, and so the Abhidharma teachings, the Vinaya teachings, and the Sutra teachings. And in the beginning of all the Abhidharma teachings, there is an homage to Manjushri. In the beginning of the Vinaya teachings, there is an homage to the Omniscient One. And in the beginning of all the Sutra teachings, there's an homage to the Buddhas and the Bodhisattvas. And so the Sutra teachings, for example, there's an homage to Buddhas and Bodhisattvas because the way in which those sutras are laid out is in a question-answer format between the Bodhisattva disciples and the Buddha and so forth. So that's why there's an homage to the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas. And then the Abhidharma teachings have an homage to Manjushri. So this field of the Abhidharma knowledge is like the scope, the field of Manjushri. And in the Sutra teachings, the Vinaya teachings, there's an homage to the Omniscient One, that is the Buddha. So these teachings are the scope of the Buddha. And so how this came about, this tradition of doing that, it started with the Tibetan king Chisung Detsen. He actually decided that because in the past, before he decided that, the various translators would always begin with an homage to their individual Yidam deity. And then, of course, there's all kinds of Yidam deities. And so then the king decided that this is how we will do it. There's this format, and there will only be these 3 kinds of homage. So that's how that came about. The translation of those 3 scripture collections begin with those 3 kinds of homage. And so then there's also this commitment to complete the composition or the translation of this text. And so we begin in this way. They begin the composition of this text in this way to, first of all, receive blessings from, in this case now, the Guru, who is indivisible from Chenrezig. And so then once the blessings have entered one's mind, then through these blessings, then may this composition be completed without any obstacles, so with stability.
Then that's pending jung, Zobe Sanjay, not Tamchu Droblin Jung, Tamchu Droblin Jung, Tayan, Slando. What does Pemba the Devan Juni, Samata Sanjay then, Sanjay Kitaze, Nazutara Tamchi Lamdon, Nekab. Devatan, Tato Sanjay Tuya, Samatas, Telejan Chunkurwa, 我的偏点中呢是做被上节是我偏点中呢。我真的在做上节次数上嘛，他们求做的，他是谈别求做的用的是，这就当求是要忙不节有的，他谈别求是要他上节求科学啥的，没事去求的嘛，你知道吧？我求是要他可以是那说去做，中次说就呢，看哪次乱的，看哪次乱，他说做他说就过去了。他可些求了，可些那他真多，可是呢，其实我婆子说，怎么他这，他就他恰的往就做记下来这意思，可能那路刚是那个嘛是吧？今天过把不是都个是吧？但是南边求的可是看哪乱，说就他就过的是，上节就没得个，让现在用是对现在的上节点把一种是吧？我听对他谈别求是这样子的，我听对谈别求他抓不来的。我这上节是上嘛，他们就是我们用的意思。我这上节是看人家在当个做南巴啥做，我听对他们就是我们穷学的。
So then it says the perfect Buddha's source of all benefit and happiness arise from having accomplished the true Dharma. So the Buddhas are said to be the source of all benefit and happiness. And so that is the path that they have walked to omniscience of Dharma is the path that brings about all temporary happiness and ultimate enlightenment. And so all of these good qualities come from this, and therefore it is the source of all benefit and happiness. And the perfect Buddhas have attained the state of omniscience, attained the state of enlightenment from having practiced the holy Dharma, this path. And so there are, what this really means, the Dharma, there are many different kind of, say Dharma religions, but here we are speaking in particular about the Buddha Dharma. And this term Dharma literally means that we are transforming our faults by looking inward. By looking inward, we are transforming our own mind. And that's different than some other religions that are more facing outward and, for example, attribute the creation of all phenomenal existence to a creator God, for example. So they say that there is this God, this creator God who has created all of existence. But they don't really actually go into explaining the true nature of all phenomena. And so within Buddhism, we are not looking outward, but inward. And in this way, realize the nature of things. And the Buddha had said, completely tame your own mind. This is the Buddha's teaching. So that's really the Buddha's teaching. And this is then how this state of omniscience, the state of Buddhahood, is attained. So as Buddhist practitioners, this is what we accept, that there is this state of all-knowingness, of enlightenment that can be attained.
Jersey nam ji laglan yi ba chas wa ta re te karsan ta sanje to ya ta chu drop go shuri ta chu drop ya ta le is nor son de ma ti ta laglan ta ya go she go shuri yes ta ze laglan ze so so chu zhum do zon ju chi ma bo chi na ze laglan ta yang ta ba ma she na ta ne yang ta bi lam ten ro to go ma lam no ro go wa wa ta ni lu bie cha ka shi na yo lam no do cha do se le ga yo no ro ge cha ro ge se le da yo ta bo ta jian ta zo na yo lam no ro ge cha ro ge sin cha sen par ka me sa bu ro ge我听着有的是种有了，我这蛮努力去下，这làm他写过的是，这就是那边老人一把钱，这就是那边现就是现在这上节课就当今的上节课他专门下个的，他估计他这钱自己下个的吧，上课他年头的强学年头是下年头的啊，估计这钱子，上课年头的让上节，年头的让上节，这钱子，这钱子。我送去这的开始呢，这下个完我做，年头的让上就是下个完，我他头是这下个强学生吧，我这他我做我这他头是强学生吧，这做肯定那其他的意思的， wata jersey namji lagna shibarchas orlando karsa jersey namji lagna ibarchas wata jersey namji lagna ibarchas tan that yegins wata jitangchina zomba tamjaba silabge ta zomba bo khona tamja rawre tangi khne ma yogins ta chine yogins security that ri gongzu je hyumya chilhamju se wachi me pen gezen digala ta ko zamne mar doba majas zamsan ze ngazo hobik luksu ze zamsan doba majas do sana tan samshag mares what zam the doba majas zamsa du den go zamsa du ma nempu go yat ta yet chikins what so what tendru no ze inside.
Then, since that depends on knowing the practices, I shall explain the way of Bodhisattvas. So if one wants to attain the state of Buddhahood, one has to practice the Dharma. But then, if one is a little bit, if one doesn't do it quite right, then one will also not accomplish it. So one also has to know how to practice the Dharma. So it's not enough to just be diligent in the practice. Even if you're diligent, if you don't really know how to do the practice correctly, then it still will be mistaken and might lead you astray. As it was said in the jewel ornament of liberation, if the Dharma is not practiced authentically, then one's path is mistaken, or one will kind of go astray from that path. So one has to know the Dharma practices, how they're actually practiced. So one has to know the practices correctly. And then the way of Bodhisattvas. So this term Bodhisattva it means the sons or the children of the Buddha. And the Buddha had three kinds of sons, of body, speech, and mind. His physical body son was his actual physical son, Rahula. And then the sons of his speech sons, were the Shravakas and the Pradyekas, the hearers and solitary realizers. And his heart sons were the Bodhisattvas. And it is mainly those heart sons who are the ones who really engage in the practice of the Buddha's teachings. And so then it says, I shall explain the way of Bodhisattvas. So this line corresponds to the commitment of completing the composition, to bringing it to an end without interruption. So now in the beginning, we have paid homage in order to receive the blessings, not to encounter any obstacles. And so sometimes it's possible that maybe something interrupts one's translation or composition, and then one turns away from it. So this is the commitment for that not to happen. I'm going to complete this until the end.
Lezen Tambo, Senor Niga Varindo. Or that Tenzari. Carsena, Jeta Melut and Jigazon Watazon, Melut, Begores, Melut, Muk Ludent, Begoresta. Or Telitan, Tenjor Town Ludent, Gagares on the Roa. Or Tendu Tangaranso, Jeta Melut of the Zamblin, Be Mambo, your Tambatunjor, doing no Lapurata, doing Chuk, doing Chuan, the Labishora. Or the Yoretan, that Tenjor top the Zope, Yuri, or Tendu Jigazon was on Atensari. Or Tendu Tangatunere Tenjor, Truchance, Tenjor said the Jadon Teva Seria, the Caresana, a chudrovia, two Kabuba, two Soyuba, the Teva Selagri. Or that Macomb lips were tarded, Macomba, the sword, the Tevas, Jadon Teva, tell G. Hagorvani Dumazo. Teva G. Senata, the Caresana, Yarvari, Yedare. Nearby Yeda Tundro Tans, nearby Yeda Tundro. Carson nearby Sarank Dunga, Takutiki, non Payens on the Chudria to Kabi Homar, Takonati, Tariats in Jurevachi. What is that the Tinkum Dunga Terriore? What it Tigana Tundro Tenko with that which he mare. Or then nearby that Tundro, Lalo selling hat on this, Lalo Senatas, Chu Madar Sandy Dimbas, Jashas Ms, tell Lalo Circle. Lalo selling hat on selling class, Latin, Doyong, Yangs, Conant, Deji Chane, the Dungartis Mina, the Chu Cheng Mare, that Deji Chan, then Tingo Yendo, the Tashiran Kamato, Tachencho Mare. Lalo selling hat, Lota Genteta would shoot hard in a Pentoshira Mare. The Casenaco, Teo Marwa, Pojul, the Lothik Jab the Ura, Lalo Sering Latana. Lokta Sanji Jidombas, Lokta Sanji Jidombas, Sanji Dombas, and the Sanji Jidonga to Sanji Sela, Drummaker was said, Mumbaker was a Nishado. What a Mumbaker was Sanji Mapia of Gant Kizon, this is the social cheese on the Chiayo Marwa. What else that T. Tevaji, so Namakomba Jitel, so not Tevas, that Tevajits. Caris. Nearby that Tundrotan Lalo selling Latana, Lalo selling. One woman song, Losa Sanji, Gupan or Gupa, or Gupan that Macomji is or one. Or then do that Gupa, Jatan Tatse, because Ambo Namcho Koya, your mother gets a laptop with Marite, Sindru Lanko that she did things, they see Neros Yantabas to drop to Maris, that this is given to Mother Yosawa. The true Neros to share to Marite, Calico the Euro. What in this is so that you drop it, the answer you Maris only. What's in it around the Shanjuranga, Sanjura Juice, Lagura? Or around the Carisen, many which ambo sounds or that Mulu squasher. Or many which ambo sounds, Muni Lutini Bachi, ambo sounds, ambo Samata, ambo the Gupat and Mambachi, ambo sound, many which ambo sound, Lenta Malo Nelatis. Or the Lenta Malo Nelatis and Lenta Loss and the Loctava Lenda. Young Dipa Chimbochi, Pechanda, Saming Archidina, the Sejik Sanjay Sugumaris. What in Lenta lots, Lenta Malo. A Cadina, many which ambos, Lenta Malo, Nil, Teba Yojo. What one? What is she? Shinjan in the what the Shanks, they sort of give out to Rocachia, Terwa. What is she in Shanjoranga, Sanjay Chung, that the Chuzon, Sanjay Chung. Or that is Sanjay Kayan, Sanjay Piana, Chuzon Maris, the Chuzon, then also Sanjay Shazet, Chuzon Uris, Sanjay Chung, the Chuzon, Dembanet, and the Jinjus. What a Dembanet. Oh, this Sanjay Demba, my name from my Sanjay Demba Nathan. Shenchen, Timar, she can't tell her. Rarity Ranjonga, many Uchi, Ambo, Lenta Malo, Nelati, or thing over Lenta Malo, Nila. What is enjoying about it? I can tell you the was Tesora. Thing artichi. Or that is Jubji sounded that enjoy Melu, Sound Ludens, Tangaranso, that's it, some sound. Or Jadon, better question now, Melu, Melu and Jamada Yuri. Melu Zambo Center, and you can what Melu, Mambo Yurizon, go Tina, this Tejoli Mar is the last one, the Melu Zambo Center, Melu Zambeta. Or then the Melu Churbo chase, answer Shano, Melu Churbo chase and bed to get it. Carson Kashi, Dipa Jim, but drop Masset, Pama, that don't know the bomb on the in bed, Mambo Chiquita. What did you do? Just all upside down, Dipa Mamboza, what that doesn't Melu. The Jismala Chirango Modoja. Jet Tenjor Melu on that, much wonder in the conjumi, Zondo. What that's the internet charter for that, and do you think also the Magic? Then also Bechandas, Jabbing, Tankajan was one of Sanji was the morning, also says GT will choose you out. Chong around to be Zonamre, Melu Pusum Sova, ring around to the concept of Yamnachi, Tenjor Trola Mason Chico for it.
So the first verse is about the difficulty of finding a precious human body. And Lord Jigten Sumgön had said, to find a precious human body is extremely difficult. So in general, he said to find a human body is extremely difficult, but among the humans, a precious human body with the 18 freedoms and fortunes, that is extremely difficult. So it may seem that in this human world there are many human beings. We have about 7 billion human beings in this world. But then of all these people, only very few actually possess a precious human body, according to what Jigten Sumgön had said. So it is very difficult to find. And it is very difficult to encounter the Dharma and to have an opportunity to practice it. There are, so it says here, freedoms and fortunes. So there are 8 unfree states. And if one is born in any of these 8 unfree states, then one has no opportunity, no time, no chance to practice the Dharma at all. So we are not born in those. And so those 8 are, first, we are free of being born in the hell realm. In the hell realm, the sentient beings are tortured by heat and cold, and so much suffering that they cannot even conceive of the Dharma practice. All they can think of is becoming free, freeing themselves from that torture. And then there's the hungry spirits who are tortured by hunger and thirst. And then there's the animals who are tortured by being used and by ignorance. So those are the first three. Then the fourth it's called barbarian, and that is to a kind of a borderland. And so that refers to someone who is born in a place where the Buddha's teachings have not spread. Number 5 is a long-lived God. The gods are distracted by sense pleasures. The experience of pleasure, of bliss, is very strong, and there is no experience of suffering at all. So Dharma practice doesn't occur to them. So actually, if we don't experience at least some suffering, we won't remember Dharma practice. We won't think of Dharma practice. Only maybe at the time of death we remember it. So then the next one is someone holding wrong views. And to them, even if the Dharma is right there and has spread, it doesn't really help them because they are obscured by wrong views. So that's number 7. And number 8 is being born at a time where the Buddha has not appeared, in a dark age. So there's 2 kinds of ages. There's a dark age and a light age. And in a dark age, there is no Buddha. So there is no way to practice the Dharma at all. There's one more actually. And so that was 7. And then 8 is to not have one's sense faculties complete. So that is an impediment. For example, if one is deaf or is mute. And so that is an hindrance to truly understanding the nature of reality of things, of the Dharma. Of course, it's still possible to practice some virtue in that state, but it's very difficult. It's a hindrance to really understanding the nature of the Dharma. So these are the 8 freedoms, states that we are free of. And then there is 10 fortunes, which are divided into 2 groups. So there's 5 personal and 5 outside of oneself or circumstantial. So the 5 personal fortunes are: one is born as a human being. Then secondly, one is born in a central land, that is a place where the Buddha Dharma has spread. And the third one is similar, that one has one's sense faculties complete. Fourth is that one is free from very negative activity. For example, it is said someone who has committed any of the 5 actions with immediate retribution, those very negative actions, cannot attain enlightenment in this lifetime. So that's number 4, and number 5 is that one has the ability to develop faith into the teachings. So these are the 5 personal fortunes. And then the 5 circumstantial fortunes are, first of all, the Buddha has appeared. And secondly, the Buddha also taught the Dharma. There are times where a Buddha does appear, but he doesn't teach the Dharma. In our time, the Buddha Shakyamuni has appeared, and he also taught the Dharma. So that's second. Third is that these teachings still remain. Fourth is that there are followers of those teachings who actually practice them. And fifth is that these followers of teachings, this community, cares for one another with loving kindness. So these are altogether the 18 freedoms and fortunes. And possessing them all means that one possesses a precious human body. And it's very difficult to find these 18 qualities. Actually, in some scriptures, it explains that there is different kinds of human birth. For example, there is the ordinary human birth, and as Chigden Sumgön had said, that's the vast majority. There's many ordinary human beings, and it's not so difficult to be born as an ordinary human being. In fact, one time when Milarepa met the hunter Gompo Dorje, he said to him, in generally speaking, a human birth is rare, but when I look at you, it doesn't seem so rare. So that is because he did a lot of negative things. So that's not so rare then. And then there is another one, and that is the kind of like the very coarse, kind of uncultivated human birth. And those who go around harming people and killing people and making wars and even bringing down their countries and societies and so on. So these are the like extremely negative forms of human birth. And then there is the precious human birth. So now, in any case, we all have these qualities of a precious human birth, and we are here together with Garchen Rinpoche, who really is a Buddha. We have met him, and we have an opportunity to receive his Dharma teachings. And that's really an incredible merit. So we have actually all these perfect conditions for Dharma practice. And now, possessing all of these conditions, it's really important that we make sure that we don't waste this opportunity.
근데 다들 전적으로 저당 배고를 니가 장고 니가是주고 니가 생각 여러와. 我大别的就当咱忙不在老的天，那大别想着想咱都对所选的强，我唐不在讲这嘛在都人得个嘛吧。咱们第一个人是这里我怎么去讨个有人是大别的，其长的时候在去那咱别想着是你吧，去那啥那个对那有人是，但一大次第一用个啥讲卡哈的这样子。我真的，同时在这里用是在去那在，别上强呢，你想强帮完那一的，真正我就了，我真那一些。 我真的，他的每次从头里头说什么东西贴是了，这说在东什么东西贴咱们是没有嘛的是的。我这用了我这真有意思，俺都说怎么样我在当今呢？真的别讲着都在用中马厂在用那些伢子，从中马都做那别搞开心没事有了哇。我这真有差的有了，但个我这第三个是没留人不这他的别个你搞啊是，但你搞啊是看的是呢，这就呢这种天将的你把心都搞。 我真的基本通着，托班就是完了，基本通着不是，基本通着不是，开心不着的。可是那个说没去旅程点呢，开始呢基础票的，到现在去旅程就是基础票嘛，没旅程它基本是通着不是通着不脱的，是通到，他说什么前边通到着不脱的。我说没旅程咋心不着的呢？几个来了我要的，我这旅程他我说这出了马上的是通到有吧，没旅通有吧几个票的，现在今年通有吧几个了。 我但听说去过，就当当年嘛在年两千年左右呢，但这个听说出了马上嘛去，那年三年两去，我听说去过，但听说我说年两去嘛对那在现在了，在没有同当点吧是可，其他的也我的，可是呢，你嘛搞到这边年间啊时间多，空军想去你什么个嘛的是，但没讲到底什么都去那龙岗子也不容易嘛的，但听说你个吧这么在当的，你都要推出可能没都是空，听说你开始追求结果是了吧？ 我这种的是这样的，我这俺那说，这是当然说天教旅游我那就是投标的，我俺那说什么，我这就是那个康特普去过去，当然说，我当年的那在很多天教出钱，天教出钱，你看特别的是我在天教出钱是出钱开始是呢，但错讲这样，可是我错让别下，第讲这样是出着我第讲他出钱是天教出钱。 你看对不对？导演可能做了直接些是，我他导演是让他看你去，可吧？就当他让几波钱，当从大学上 drop 嘛，现在先边来看错结果，我做就那有你的先边来让他们讲这些咱把大钱是我他先边来你办没到呢，他看错结果的是吧？我这其那个说的，老是下里钱都找给了，我先边来他们提咱把大钱是哪有了？ 我这几个月的时间，他们可能做了这些钱是，你当钱对1万没把意思，但你一定钱，肯定那你钱没得了，但1万没把1万钱，但1万钱这里那边有往去看嘛送的，就说出了马上嘛，我在这里的1万没把意思，年前光把这些当然，但秋天年过去，年把基本这个嘛，怎么当过去了，这里光过去了，但头上工作些呢，这年前光把些呢，这块的这头上工作，汤不头发去。 这里话是怎么去？他妈的光把是咱做我这光把去过去，这光那在那路通过去，我在这里去啊，这就是强调身边去老人人是，我这种啥的吧。
And so it is explained the difficulty of finding a precious human body is explained in terms of its causes, numbers, and illustrations. Now, in terms of illustrations or examples that show how difficult it is to find the precious human body, there are many examples. For example, just in brief, there's one where it says, it is as difficult to find a precious human body as it is for a dry bean to stick on the wall when you cast it on the wall. It's very highly unlikely. So it's in a similar way, it's very unlikely, very difficult to find a precious human body. Then when we think about the numbers, it is said that there are as many hell beings, just in comparison now, there are as many hell beings as there are dust particles in this entire world. And there are as many hungry spirits as there are snowflakes in a blizzard. And there are as many animals, so it gets lesser. There are as many animals as there are like these particles. I say after you brew beer, that something stays. How do you call that? What this says? Yeah. How do you call it? Sediment, the sediment, yeah. So as there are particles in the sediment of brewed beer. And then there are as many gods and humans and higher realm beings combined as there are particles, like dust particles on a single fingernail. So they are very few in comparison. So if we really think about it, we can really make sense of it. For example, if you pick up a rock and you find an ant colony underneath it, there are probably more ants there than there are people in a large country in the world. So we can see in terms of numbers how rare it is to be born as a human being. And now in the Bodhisattva it says, this human birth is extremely difficult to find, and once you have found it, it must be used to accomplish something meaningful. That's most important, because use, this term, it can be used, actually is significant, because a special quality of human birth is that we have freedom over what we do. We can do anything in this human world. And in other kinds of birth, we don't have this freedom. We cannot do anything that we want. So in this birth, we have the freedom to practice, to do whatever we want. And therefore, we have an opportunity to practice to become liberated. So that is why this human birth is so precious, but then also it is lost very easily. And that is why it is so important to make good use of one's time and not waste one's time in this life. And in general, even if you're not able to practice, like it says here, meditate day and night without distraction, even if you're not able to really practice day and night, at least we have to make sure that we use this life in a meaningful way. For example, there was this story about in the past about a Kadampa Geshe called Geshe Chenga, and he would never sleep at night, and some of his students would actually urge him to sleep because they were worried he was getting sick. But he said that if I think about how hard it is to find a precious human body, I feel there is no time for sleeping. So in his mind, this sense of precious human birth has really arisen very powerfully. And so now we all have found such a precious human birth. And it's important to recognize that and use it in the best possible way. And so here it says, it is this great ship of freedom and fortune. So samsara is like this vast ocean, and the human birth is like a ship that helps you cross this ocean. And it says here, to free yourself and others. So oneself and others, not only oneself. Also in the Bodhisattva it says, even if your ability to benefit others is not strong, you should always sustain the wish to benefit them. So, and then if you always sustain this wish of helping them as much as you can, then this wish, this altruistic wish, will increase. And so it says, listen, reflect, and meditate day and night without distraction. With day and night without distraction, together really means don't waste your time to meaningless distractions in this life, but use your time to listen, reflect, and meditate upon the Dharma. So it's not enough to just listen to the Dharma, to just know about the Dharma. And that's a merit in itself, but then we also have to reflect on it, understand it, and most importantly, we have to practice it, which is meditation. It means to practice the Dharma in order to actualize like the true nature of reality. So this is the way of a Bodhisattva.
大致的你把这人多，咱年纪小了，多家去的有这也小了，现当没单把啷到那了，得么没得，培育不完就是老人意思。大致是啥的，哒？对，培育咱年纪小了多家，所培育出来，那他在年纪忙不在有，做才开啥，年纪忙不在了点呢，他家长是让一来我给，所没干完，在了当把是来我给，我这里，我这家长是这来我给是吧？我不รู้ว่า是从有了很多家些当在某种提起来的没给意思，我提从不记晓得没给人从有的，我听ดู的那他在应该说年小在家的对年他说那在读过什么用的上，但是怕在说去偏多他这么当学的，我听ดู咱们他别搞来忙不家过学，他说来了我有嘛的，这大他这个嘛的，我从苦里拿了哇。等苦里拿就是大他这个嘛的，他说了刚年东啊，他忙不接有人，我说怎么要不在当他就抢多。我听着抢着个的，对，我在这子在通那这口去那口，现在在那没那一直把着出来，这样个你口嘛的，对，这口也看着在没说的啦，咱们对就那有开始呢，现在生活想讲呢，一年希望伢们用是吧的，现在生活是这样讲，一年希望伢们用是，家常对话没套的，你们用是点没用是，但你用嘛的，点不用嘛的。家常对话透过嘛的，家常对话嘛，你们用些，点用是吧的，这点不用嘛的，对吧？我这大天就空的开始点不出来的，家常你不就空的，我这点不出嘛的一把的点呢，这家常是咱就空说的，听你不的，可是你就是做在提供的铺这点不想着说的，我这点不他我家是啦有嘛的，这啷到嘛些吧，可能啷一这点不想着说的，我这点不出来。我大可是在做年龄的去，所说的恰当是怎么嘛穷当过学的，他恰当是在所说的让教是在恰把自己穷当，这现教他把当完自己穷当，他们所说的这些把恰个哇，别想着这怎么讲过这样透过嘛了，这这么我用个嘞，这这样透过嘛了，就那就是说，除非是的这种那这他们去讲当这是的，除非是的嘛讲他们这他们去讲啥的他。แต่มาตัวถ้าจอมทุกข์มาเลยแต่ใจจริงๆใจลองคุยนี่เดี๋ยวว่าแต่ใจสู้ๆชักษาที่น่ะที่รู้ก็ย้อนรอยช่วยยอมมาเลยนะที่สู้ๆแต่ใจสู้怎么难当的恰当ที่穷当ว่าแต่ใจก็甚至这เนี่ย上嘛让一嘛着对不对我内心的当然如果其中说他说是今天中国中是这可是你东北西边看着，这超市西边把我你看着西边东北一种什么？这超市西边把我意思，你东北西边看着意思，中国的是你看中国这种什么？我这让我抢着过，人家你看我那天说论几把这点，那这你算着去了，我这说对真的说刚才说来穷学的，我这我那天在说要不是人家你看说路说小这里来去做。那这个让出咱们上这说没把说过，搞来看嘛，看来你们去把穷当中呢，这样我他或不是没把说进，穷说出来了话，这个来看我学这个，那他这里是穷当，我甚至其中呢说偏头有人什么多了吧，我真的可是在朗多那了点么没得，我在朗多没写的，这恰当你朗多没写的了的，我点么没得。贴是他们的某些，培育不完就是老人，他培育帮过的，是那他培育帮呢，偏多些了要嘛的，上不来呢，在培育帮呢，怕叫他了，啥子这来呢，他来人家他妈两个人，晓得的，相当他妈两个人，今天就他妈两个人，啥子这了他，没来的别中我的口就现在查那个是先别啥子这了，培育帮呢，先把他了，他那有个人是没来的别，说查那个年查说签那个就穷那个嘛的。过去什么的，这个大来红个人是，做这说今天中国中多开始中国是呢，日出这么样子，日出这么样子开始是那的，上级日出呀，看着的在这点长毛期一个，插完期公开长毛期啊，这上级去了买了一说， So the Karis and Sanji Chulu, Vembachi, the social non something to go for this. What are Zondo, what is so non something to do? The Chatan to Chong the door. To pay you bond the Jiparico. The man's example is bond, Karas on that answer, then you let her. So the same spam matona. That's a cheat.
And so then the second verse, where it speaks about abandoning one's homeland. And so, so normally it is the case, the reason why we say homeland is because normally it is the case that in our homeland, we are likely to encounter like a lot of familiar people. So we are very likely to encounter people that we develop an attachment to and then aversion to, people we like, people we don't like, and so on. So that happens in your surrounding. But actually, what it really refers to is one's negative emotions of attachment, aversion, and ignorance. Nagarjuna had said, whatever you do with attachment, aversion, and ignorance is non-virtuous. So normally we have an attachment to our friends, our close ones, and we want that nothing bad happens to them, and we want to help them. And to help them, we work very hard, and it's not easy. But then, since after all this is samsara, it never happens the way we want. So we work very hard, but still we run into suffering all the time. If you really think about it, this is really what happens all the time. And then, on the other hand, when we see an enemy, someone that we don't like, then it blazes in us like fire. Hatred blazes in us like fire. And we can't even sleep at night. We keep thinking about this person we just hate. In the Bodhisattva, it also says that those who develop hatred will not find any peace, will not find any happiness or joy, will not find any stability. And so the source of all of that, of those afflictions, is ignorance. And ignorance is an affliction that is not so apparent, but it's naturally always present. So through our practice, we must reduce these thoughts of attachment and aversion, so as to achieve true and lasting peace and happiness in our mind. And in order to really achieve that, we have to face inward. We cannot face outward and try to get rid of all of our enemies. That will simply be impossible. We can't get rid of all of those enemies on the outer level. And even if we tried so, maybe even more will come after all. So what the Buddha had said is that we have to tame our own minds. Also in the Bodhisattva, it says that if you don't tame the hatred in your own mind, the outer enemies will only increase. There will be no end to outer enemies. So you eliminate one, and a second one arises, and it just becomes endless. You will never get rid of all your enemies. So it's important to face inward and look at the mind and eliminate one's own afflictive emotions of attachment and anger and so forth. And also, as Rinpoche said this morning, we need to understand that those so-called enemies and friends do not actually possess inherent existence. Now, there was this quote by Jigten Sumgen where he said, when you realize the empty nature of friends, they are dakinis, and when you realize that enemies are like friends, then they are dakas. Everyone is a dakam. This is, of course, very difficult to accomplish, to always keep that in mind, that there's actually no difference between enemies and friends. But then we have to do the best we can to take notice of what arises within our mind, all these afflictive emotions towards people we like and people that we don't like, what actually arises in our mind. Of course, it's very difficult to instantly just get rid of all these negative emotions. It's very difficult. It requires practice. It won't just happen like that. It's very difficult, but still we can at least reduce them somewhat, and that already is of great benefit. And so it says we forget what to adopt and what to avoid. So that is, if we are obscured by these thoughts of attachment and aversion, we forget what we should do and what we shouldn't do. And then, therefore, it says, abandon your homeland. And so again, there is no benefit in abandoning your outer homeland in itself. So actually, if you just abandon your homeland, that is in itself useless, to be honest with you. Because if you go somewhere else, again, there come the enemies and the friends that you're attached to, and people that you hate, and again, the 8 worldly concerns arise and so on. And that's also what Milarepa had said. If you abandon the homeland to live in the mountains, in the caves, again these thoughts of fame and reputation and so on will follow you if you don't abandon them from within. And also Thich Somgen said something similar. Now we can run away and go away and seclude ourselves to a place of solitude. But then only enduring the hardships of a cold winter on a snowy mountain and the heat of summer, that's not the Buddhist religion, that's not the Buddha Dharma, the Buddhist practice. Buddhist practice is to tame your own mind from within. And that means to eliminate your own afflictive emotions of attachment and anger and so on. And when you're able to do that, that actually is the abandoning of the homeland. Otherwise, if you just abandon your physical homeland, wherever you go, you will always encounter enemies and friends again. And so one time when Milarepa had a conversation with Rinchen asked, now, is it true that when you abandon the homeland that you will also abandon the 8 worldly concerns? And Milarepa said that in general this is how it is said, but then really it is mainly the mind. If you do not resolve the afflictions in your own mind, then wherever you go, thoughts of attachment and anger will arise again.
Oh, that's it. That you get Baba at Rindoa. You get Bame. You get Bame, no more than Jitna, maybe Gajor on Kimper, Riva down by Cholang, and by them by Jersey Langista. Well, that's all the Chalamosum Jesse used by Union Barretta. That Chuya would drop you marry. What the Union Bat Papane? Then you want to my chunk to Chundo Grace, it's only. Just remember, that's a retro member, Mimi Luton said long in my Mimi Luton. Memesi Lumbato did Mimi Luton, Memesa. So the Chalamans is million grace. What in the Memesa, that's a Radano, that's one third than Chalan Shirasiak Maris. What in Mimi Lumbe Chaholas, Malaripe, Mimi Lumbe Chahol, Jumbo Chive, Molam Debs. What then I hear Molam Debi, similar to Zonroa. Or the Jumbo Chive, Molam Debs, or what do you think Adam Comatas or get his own? Or Carzon or Sena, Lobo Chula this. Chupo John this, Johnson, that's a Jewish army, just as Chalamans of Shojigra, Jumbo Shippo John the Roa.
This young
Lobo Chula di.
Laura.
Lord Chuldi. Lobo Chuldi, Chupo John the Jumbo. Jumbo, that you should have made on his side. John this. Jumbo Shildi, this. Shildi, here. Shippo Chopo Gumbo, Chapo Gumbo, this. That's a new zone of Gadam Debashis. Or to do that, so don't you can't choose to Papa Grace, the mean, Chalamos of Jim Grace, that's all thing. No more Chalamos to Machon, Chalamos to Yunazo, they move yard, Marja, so not the moon, yard chamber on the gun on the day, Tandamada. Then you can't choose it on 11. What does mean that it's party state to show this? Then I may be gay your non pierce, then I may be gay your non pierce, and the young Rosama, they get your non, say, Calic, young Perhugary. Marvalo si malade façon Mimi Lungbe Chapo, Lankunde Jeve, son du you, ça, Kurba, the young son jassa. C'est la Yoris, Mimi Lungbe Chapo, Lankunde Jeve, son du you, on the roi. Water, then Rikwan down be chulang ishes, what a Rikwan down be chuling ishes, and the Rikwa Tambo Chagres, they chul to Yamnet compendo to Gris, Nishes, or then Yamnet compendo Gores, and by them by Jersey Lagnasis, then by Jersey Lagnasis, the Malari zone or Carson. Geba Troje Masorwa, now as more Masorwa, return the Chinuna, Najor Zamba Sobanis, or Geba and a gaze on the trots of Masorwa. Now the Lezimu Masorwa. The return the Shesona, Najor Zamba Sobanis. None women me but none chimney me but shinning women me but return the Chinan, Najor Zamba Sobanis. Cosone. Or the Yana Yikardos on listen. Zaju Sharu. 在下地养的不沙瓦汤，在这下绿长麦沙瓦汤，下绿长麦有了长麦，在军不严结巴汤，是种的人亲的呢，那就是咱把做办意思。在军在这有了在这不沙样的，我这那就是咱把做办意思。哪能没结没把汤，我那超结没把人的亲，那就是咱把做，哪能没结没的可能结不嘛？这过了差天，这么的这是结没的，但那就是咱把做办意思，我这。 Da te reconsigne di chiun bate o jambo chipe molam de se zon chur zila imba wa tan jong le da wa tan ju ji da me be ni ya tin nyam na chi ne ta me be ni ha nyam le ma ji di en ba rang ji bo di de pen to yo ma re te da sa ma ya do do gra ko na so ti ki fen do so da nyam le chi go yo ro ha me ba di nyam le ma ji yan di na ha te to shi da syo ma ro ta na me ba di do zi ta chak lang pa pa do zi na te so nyam le ma ji na pen to shi da yo ma ro
So the next verse number 3 is about abandoning negative companions. And so the negative companions or negative places are abandoned. So it refers to a place or an environment or people that we associate with that cause our afflictive emotions of attachment and anger to increase. So a negative environment is a place where we cannot properly practice the Dharma. And so that is why we go to an isolated place in order to eliminate our afflictive emotions. That is why we go somewhere where there is nobody else, an empty place. And the reason why this is the instruction often is because in a desolated place where there are no people, it is very unlikely that we will develop many thoughts of attachment and aversion because for the most part, our thoughts of attachment and anger have to do with other people. So it's not so likely that we develop attachment or anger towards like a wild animal, like a deer or so. It happens with people for the most part. And so Milarepa made this prayer that there's this like long prayer which comes later, but he made this prayer of dying a beggar in his cave. And then also in the old Kadamba tradition, there are 4 ways of like kind of directing one's attention. And the first one is one must direct one's mind toward the Dharma. And then the Dharma must be, one must direct the Dharma towards like straightforwardness, also like basically related to sitting up and practicing. And then one must direct one's practice towards death. And one must direct one's death towards an empty cave where one dies alone. Because in such a place where you're by yourself, it is just less likely that you develop a lot of thoughts of attachment and anger. So mostly why do we get attached and angry is because of always dealing with a lot of people and going around in our daily activities, and we hear and see things that trigger negative emotions, and those 8 worldly concerns arise just naturally. And so when that environment is not present, then just naturally we will have fewer afflictive emotions in our mind. So therefore it says here that in such a place, the negative, disturbing emotions will gradually decline, and then attention to virtue naturally grows. Then you can focus on virtuous practice. Marpa also said to Milarepa that when you the place, the empty place where there are no human beings, that is the marketplace where you trade in samsara for nirvana. So in such a place, the mind is clear, and therefore one's practice will develop. And then now this song by Milarepa, he said that basically when may I die at an old age, may I not be with many people. May no people be around me. When I die, may my sister not know anything about it. When I'm sick, may she not anything about it. May she not know about it. And this would complete or perfect the wishes of a yogi. When I die, when I'm sick, may there be nobody kind of complaining next to me. And when I die, may there no one be crying next to me. That completes the wishes of the yogin. And then after I have died, may my flesh become food for the maggots, and my joints become food for the bugs, and so on. This would complete the wishes of the yogi. So to die alone in an empty place in a cave, that completes the wishes of the yogi. So that's also similar to this Kadampa prayer, actually. To practice alone in solitude. And of course, the point of going into solitude is to actually practice. There is no benefit in just secluding yourself to an isolated place if you don't practice. Because that's something that deer and animals can do too. They live in isolation, but they don't necessarily practice. So that's not the point. The point is not to live in isolation. The point is to practice and to eliminate the afflictive emotions.
Och det getan där metak går så 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 metak går det. Och då alltså ni du getan metak den section där måste chagra karsena sabin tamanzi trobe tamache jebin tamashe zebi tamashe så det gör. Och det är det så att drobe tamache yare dan zashi så så che så ko chen då jag med gör med det. Getan alltså metak det sa ko gon kechen bo chadi gör. Karsena metak så det kan ju det samdo metak gon det dungar gon samdo dungar det så chun marete. Karisen metazi soso julu yongre. Ting be chang da xiang na zo hu da xia xiang na. Hu ke metu de nang chu de karisen nang chu dang ti hu ke region de de zhe qin bo yue ko. Den zhe qin bo yue du karisen la san de gang ye chin ta meta re se ko mang chu de du ko la ya xia de yue. Wo de de meta re se ce de soso zam mo dang sa je yue wa. An dong a xiang na ko ba re. Ta yong ge de la ge re. Wo de chen chu zam mo de dang sa je yue. 我常常刚刚去的来的，实在老了解有的。我这说怎么在我那现在老多些是腾出忙着腾出差不多，他说什么当时见多啊。我这种我说第什么当过下的，没打他要不在ความสน说的刚刚是穷的这个的，可是呢，但我说就没打没打用的，没打是西亚基本的是买的，打没打别出破原来张本这个在打没打用的，别是说家啦要不说现在修的打没打用的吧。 我这种用的，我这是没打就先从他个没打人生，这么当时在有了吧？你嘛，我做节目了么？这种多，我没看这拍片是，这泡沫路穷穷是比较路你学生啥在哪里？西亚里都是那啥，像这泡沫的老百姓都是的，那些土啥嘛的，西亚个改良土啥嘛的是，没他妈路起不蛮西么东啊，估计这些个要今天开的是，我这个穷改良土啥嘛的，他们都是，这我呢，他没打做穷什么些了，蛮过这挺就强着说的。 我当初听没打做些，第说当初当初青年这里，这里没打做是怎么的是当，样呢样的估计，他谈不出其他了偏给的，但呢，马不在偏给的，但是说怎么当啥些有的，我这呢他或者么去搞他们这些教育些的，啥家他们来的办几个按照经济，按照人家当嘛拿罗去这里，我但是就没打也不是讲，没打也不是讲，你没我懂当的，当嘛这边带的就没意思啊。 这没打是要不我们现在出去投票，这偏给的是，可是出就要的，出中主机投票，这是偏给的是。我这要不我们说这么多，我这里真的我听着掐的我。我这些可他们这些把参与些参与，参与些这个， tendu zong re de tendu re da te chi tene tendu re de biba drobe norze shutelu so ta biba drobe norze shutelu ta za he so chen ro de biba norze so shutelu ro res ta juno za kasi kale jan ma je tra lu ya re so gun mo je kin ro sa yo ma re chupu karma go karina che do ya sia yo ma re da kazan jabar mo che kazan somba ka shin je do 샤트 자바는 송도 당게제 랍 촌제 랍 고송도 데 다치나서 베 실행가도 주노르 망보 사이 용터라 가디네 펜사레 양 참제 손좀다냐 손데 하 펜사레스 다른 거는 진티키라 페야요 말스 소 참제 좀 되냐제 소소 참제 제사제 용 오늘 디디키디나 펜게레스 뭐 요네스 와 태송도 저소 오늘 진 점쟁도 그러와 와 텐류리다 제가서 개치 효들이 소소 파소 제 참제에 서 참바 제와서 개치 버린도 어다 되면 또 주노티 가지 오나 되는 거다 제도야 지금 말다고 원 비비로 벤노 제슈틀루스 르네 남친 종고 남 르친 종칸 남신 종고 허스다 르든 종칸 나지레 남피 코나 파통도 그 때문에 보시송도 남피 지우 킹세 화합되는 나지레스 때다 가든 포지잠로 되시면 도송도 가든 포로지 잠로 되면 도스 어때 어떤다고 창도 아
간다고 지우래
신강 치파되는 나시레스 남피세 가든 포지리 잠로 되시면 도스 정도 어떤다고 그래 다 들으 창도 셔 르진 종칸 남신 종보 허스 종칸도 가르쳐나티 그 종칸의 상마제디 좀 보좀 보는 거 그러와 어떤다 이래 나가서 르고 어떤 종칸 나지레 어떻게 되네 담아 타세 이제는 계신 버래 지금말에 배송요라 가르송어서나 추포 노르클로 사미 담아다도 추포 노르클로 사얼마 대바우레카 제사미 바우레카 제사미 센터 손자 타 지치도 사얼마 바우레카 제사미 디가나 이게 가르송어서나 태송어리 자메 루치 치사미 스데자 인제마 시보제이나 티게 루치 치라서 요 말이스 님좀 주바 안 보이사미 삼문 님좀 이세 나 님 충충이다 이제 그치라 줄라비아요 말이스 어때는 다르메 화로 치사미 스타 로하요 마사 초원로지나 초도서 치노요 말 단좀 레카리 초그래 초도서 요 말아 다르메 화로 치사미 어때서 말 근데 텐두 차대요 그래와 때마다서 있어 나랑서 azamdo dango ya 그 상만은 뭐 다 요리 토면 미바데 수직 조업하고 말 소소소소 다 냠냐 치티 조업하면 배창자스 하는 제 달라만다스 로마망보 고동차 망보 고동나 뒤뒤 라마 코나 그레기 좀데 게데 카르원 테마토제 코나 제도야 춘요 말 다 잡아서 제도 마 제가 제 본보이 달람 자 코신로 자감제나 존도 친로 마장바 고도지나 제도야康巴真不在那下不但那啥家东真马过去了去都去都要有么了有了有么了你嘛가담 계시 내조르서 소르세 가담 계시 내조 티고 로마제 요사로와 티 로마티 라르세 티고 계시 로마제나 용다 진다다 센사 진다 신 부가 자사레 당에 첸디 치는 부진스 세치만가 제 다나냐와 통가 코차비 야보스 콘 송자스키 다스티아도 로진제 라르세 이거 텔라디 가담 계시 야세 다 딩도스요 야 치랑 나사 숑데 담보 다스티아 코차스 콘 송자티아도 제 송지 라르세 이거 텔라디 코 치오노 제 네로 소도 소디스 삼도 당사 치오니세这历史上那么老像这个，现在老汤就是老人说的，啥现在老当过来，啥娘们去过来，那个这老当嘛，现在这老当嘛，他们那娘们去那个看突突子，那么嘛他们说，他去过嘛，那个说他没来把那这老当去，过来看不着。
So then number 4, this verse is on impermanence, and so normally we don't really think so much about impermanence, and we are all aware of it. But it is said in the scriptures that there are like 4 kind of words of truth, and that is everything that is collected will be scattered, and everything that comes together will separate, and everything that is born will die, and everything that is built will collapse. So, for example, we come together with our friends and spouses and so on, our loved ones, and in the end we will separate from them. And it's important to have that in mind. Often when we speak about impermanence, and people think that we're just talking about miserable things. But that's actually not the case at all. It's very helpful to one's mind, actually. In fact, in Tibet, we have the tradition that people naturally really think about the four thoughts, because the Tibetan culture is very much connected to the Buddha Dharma, actually. So, for example, when they encounter some difficulties, then they would just say, but things are impermanent. And when they encounter a problem, then they would just say, that's just how it is. Of course, it is samsara, things happen. Or if they encounter some difficulties, they say, oh, this is karma. So they have this foundation of the four thoughts that turn the mind just naturally in their culture. And so that's really something for us to think about, actually. If you really think about impermanence well, then you will have much fewer difficulties, much less of an experience of misery and suffering, because you know that everything is impermanent. And we are not just talking about death, actually. Everything else is impermanent too. For example, the rich become poor, or you lose a very precious object, a thing that you like very much. Impermanence happens all the time. And one time His Holiness Chizang Rinpoche told this story of when he went to a hospital once. He saw a young a woman, like 20 years old, and she was on the verge of death. She was very ill. And she was not a Buddhist, so she said that, I'm so young, I can't die, I just can't accept this. Dying is what old people do. Then why do I have to die at such a young age? She would not understand this at all. And this is what Holiness said is really what happens if we don't think about impermanence. Now, we are Dharma practitioners, so it will be good for us to at least think a bit about impermanence, how everything is impermanent. And actually, when we really think about it, it will help us, it will keep us going in our Dharma practice. There are many benefits in thinking about impermanence. Also, when Gampopa left to meet Milarepa, and then his Kadampa Geshe at that time, the Geshe Chau, he told him the one and only important instruction, which is like my heart instruction, is always remember impermanence. There's no higher instruction than that. And that's a really, really good instruction. So here it says, possessions gained with effort will be left behind, and we will part from our companions. So no matter how much you have accumulated, how much money you have accumulated with however much effort, you will not be able to bring with you even just a single dollar. Also recently, His Holiness the Dalai Lama met with some business people, and he said that, if you don't mind me telling you, at the time of death, if you have all these things that you have accumulated around you, they will be of no benefit. And what will be of any benefit at that time? It will be love. That's the only thing that will be of any benefit when you die. And so that's very a meaningful thing to say, and that's really most important. It is love that we want to bring with us. We can't bring our companions, our money, our wealth with us. So it says consciousness is a guest. It will leave the guest house of the body. Milarepa also said the consciousness is just like a bird who comes to sit down on a tree branch. You don't know when it will take off and fly off again. So resting on that tree branch is like having this human birth. And we don't know when the consciousness will leave again, just like this bird. So the body is just like a guest house. When you stay in a hotel, you don't move in there, you just stay there for a night and then you leave again. So it's just like that. The body is something that you will leave. And Milarepa then also said that then there is nothing that you can do when it comes a time to die. The rich cannot buy their way out of death, and if you are very courageous, you cannot stand up against death and say, I won't let you take me, you will die anyways. Or it doesn't, even if you are a very beautiful girl, you can't seduce death. And even if you're very very humble and timid, you can't say, I'm too timid to die, please spare me. You won't be spared. A coward cannot run away. So there is no escape from death. That's what Milarepa said. So it's very important to always remember that, because at the time of death, whatever we have accumulated will not protect us. The only thing that will protect us is our practice. So even if a lama, for example, has thousands of disciples and activities, when it comes time to die according to the karma, then there's nothing that his monks, for example, can do. They can't lock him up in some kind of a castle that they lock, and he won't get sick there and he won't die in there, and surround that with an army and so on. It won't help anything. Kadamba kishe la yorava.
Kadamba kishe nezor.
Oh, nezor. That was his kadamba kishe called nezor. And so that there was this disciple. He came to see him, and the disciple made an offering to him, and the disciple said, he was a benefactor, and so that disciple said that benefactor said that I am making this offering only for this life though, but in my next life I'm all set, because I will put on my armor and I take my horse and I will be all set for next life. And the Lama says, okay, that's fine. So you put on your armor, you don the armor, and you don't get sick. Try that first. And so then that's the time when this benefactor started to begin to realize a bit the nature of things. So anyways, it says, let go of all worldly concerns. Letting go of worldly concerns means to engage in practice. And even if we are not able to let go of all of our worldly activities like Milarepa, that's very difficult to do. But even if we can't do that, we should do the best that we can to engage in practice.
Tinjo sera kant drona tuksum perjorwe tosam gumsum chawa nyamjorwe chamta ningje mi ba joji chongya boma jarse laglan yin zondo wada jedon ran so ta ze so nyamna chi ja so no le tin chwa dan se span ko re zon re ton da chi na karsena ta jizim la re fe zon re gambo bal pan ro ren ka karzon sena tuksum je be chwa thang man ro se la re to zom je nyomo tuksum je de le chwa man ro zon re 와서 가시는 다 들으려 스페 지난다 카레 추주 카레도 계산데 들이 파제 라비 고 시당시 오제 그랬어 와서 시당지 용도 들으제 다제 한 certains 살아 마케다 심본데 용나 거나 버리셔 대다 감보 반다시나데 들으디 들으 차당지 거나 들으려스 가시는 다제 추 주민의 추도 비야 아마 신도도레나 냐르제 칸톱도지 주민의 추도 비야 아마 나는 매 자사진 좀 거리시네 제 개와 접치 거를 세다 다제 추도 빌 주도 거를 세다 잘라 거를 세다 잘라 선유진 바치그레스 와드는 지긴들은 도샤추다 쿠쇼레스 와드는 카제는다 다다 추도 비야 투수 마레스 칼레 치초레스 동반이 되서 구면 투수 말 칼레 와다 세수 데모 마다르테어스 와다 투숨집에 초스만 로셀라 와다 인troduction 안데사 다네마 가르나 다 들이 참는 게 있어서 마총 땅야 그래서 오는데 더 초양 타바 마레스 와 제단 다 초스 방야 디스칼레 하고요 이나 같이 소소 제와 침보도 벌써 오는데 방야 디스칼레 하고요 이나 다 소소 벌써 제와 침보 고년 시치네 소소소소 바 솔 공소라 디 참는 게 치에다 들이 좀네 야고 봐 다 투소 싫어 삼아래 다른 이유로.
And so then the next one, number 5, is about the bad company. And so it says to give up bad company. And that is mainly due to the fact that they negatively influence our practice. Before Milarepa parted from Gambopa, Milarepa told him that wherever you go, do not associate with those companions who cause the increase of the 3 poisons. And so how it happens is that, for example, so he said, there is some people who will tell you, who will ask you, who is your Lama and what's your religion, and that may lead towards to biased thoughts and the resentment, and anger arises. And some people will tell you that you can't practice the Dharma without anything. You need to make, first collect some things, some provisions, and then you can practice the Dharma. And this kind of talk will cause desire, attachment to increase. Then other people will tell you now is not the time to practice. You can practice later. You can meditate on emptiness later. So this talk will cause your ignorance to increase. And as they increase, your love and your compassion will decline. And therefore, these are not companions that assist you in your practice. And of course, in reality, it's difficult to abandon certain companions, especially there are certain people who love you very much and you can't just abandon them. But then they can also become your kind of support to develop, to increase your love and your compassion.
Tara drop a choice sans, Teba Mohu Tana. What a Tara drop is Teba, the Mohu Tana, Setana, that's some chance of Chamban general, Tana, the Koran, Samatana Jungle. What is Tizon Ra? Tara drop a choice sans, what in so giving and so on. That's Sanjay. Don't worry, I'm also giving you the Sokasana, Sanjay Jim Dandy, Yang and Derenka, and Yanto Chancho Sambakashi, that's Sanjay Yang and they said, the truth country cheese, and I give you sauce, doing it, then Sanjay Chu Dangin on what in this so that we give a control pair, compared now, Tarik Loka, Junior, then they give in Yantava Street. What is in this at that? That's one day, they choose.
And then number 6 is about following a true spiritual friend. And a true spiritual friend is someone that causes your love and your compassion and your practice to increase like the waxing moon. And such a teacher is said to be more dear than your own body. Milarepa said, when faith, devotion, and pure view increase, or a companion that causes faith, devotion, and pure view to increase is a companion that leads to the attainment of liberation. So pure view also here is actually related to the love and compassion for all sentient beings. And relying on such a spiritual friend who causes these to increase leads to the attainment of Buddhahood. Before the Buddha Shakyamuni passed into nirvana, some of his Bodhisattva disciples asked him, after you have passed into nirvana, what will happen to the Dharma? And he said, the Buddha responded, that later on I will appear in the form of the spiritual teacher. And this is how the Dharma will remain. These spiritual teachers will cause the virtuous minds of the disciples to increase. It will lead them to liberation. So a teacher who guides you on that path is an authentic teacher.
다 지난 제발 점로지 지와 남바데 공조som 지난 점로 요라한테 공조som 잡소마서 예반세 효리 상제 주 견두티 좀 잡소마서 예반세 효리 와튼 점로리 다랑 쿠르벤 송라 진와 인선나 다랑 쿠르발 마탈 제 잡토고 말에 배전 뭐자 추코로 손나 추 제메케르 제 뭐텔렌지드나 라토고 말하고 냠 추코로 그래 와튼 하지레 다랑 쿠르벤 조라 단 직장 다 예수케 단 직장 다 잡토고 말에 람도 지당 진주 잠스기라 nga zuka dong zai zuma mangbondo ta kari na zai zams기라 zuma zo ka zai yi zuma yore ka zai jidan jidan zuma yore jidan zuma zo zang zo chuo zhom nian se yo hu chu qi ne zuka dong go yore jidan zuka dong de tangbo ye dang la zai zhen dong duo 我这几天就下头里面在，我这是家不着学嘛，就当朝这边去。节目他人家现在我总算成年人上进成年种中间人是，我总算我这里今天他也是些教吧，你什么？但今天那个教头干嘛的是？提前看了，家不没了，光教怎么着就是让我这看样家没了，这上节学跟对什么的是，我这里的。我这上节拖不过去，这学的남동 더 추어도 거셔. 추어도 견디 거셔. 대 공조 좀대 다제 이제 대한들은 더 차도. 단 타도 뭐 점로도 다 상제리. 대 가르잖아. 소소야 냠내 컴페어 송 야고 지는데 상마들 타도 상제 잡네 상제 약체 인스 와데 줄라만나 세종요라 잠 상제 약체 상제 자가. 대이나 다데 내가 가서 뒤청마 점로도 거셔래. 다 점로도 지디네 고 내 코르베 동아를 잡도 그래. 내가 센데 파지데 쟁이 봐. 삼지 계속 그래. 다들 소소게 태송면에 예체친데 대점로 동도지는 델타스 점로로도야 요 말에. 니마 바충을 못 해도 공소 상면 다 점로 동고를 좀 봐서도 어때 어디 가선다 그 소소 태송면에 되지나 된주 요다. 가서 구장라면 아니도 이게 상사 요와 대종제 요와. 그래서나 뭐 이제 그만해 요래서 자완다 되는 거 자성을 살아왔고 这个家从这些呢，这这话题说从里头，上街的家皮，我去了家皮，我跟着家皮，就怕从去的是，这个初说啥的，这南瓜子、三八子要的的是，这三八子要的，这个你的妈妈一忙不这样一啥的，忙不着说的是，苍忙着不说嘛，如果是银行的，那啥的银行的，家讲不贴吧，我们这些那啥的银行的啥的，这就怕从那家不话题那啥的。 in court this is chundro pokema他这期咋的从就看你过这些那个嘛是真的东松生上级我现在都是讲不上面嘛有看嘛都是下那那做着啥的是拉的这个这 in court 对吧咱们的妈妈也是写学的那个这家头可以样的他是话题是什么家头可以
Then number 7 is refuge, and that's very important. And Jigden Somgen said in the Gongchik that the difference between Buddhist and non-Buddhist is the refuge. And of course, the kind of refuge we speak about here is the refuge of the 3 jewels. Of course, other religions also have a refuge, but here he specifically refers to the refuge of the 3 jewels of Buddha, Dharma, and the Sangha. And it says here, so the worldly gods themselves are imprisoned in samsara. So therefore, since they cannot liberate themselves, they are not yet liberated themselves, they can also not raise anyone else to liberation. For example, if someone who can swim is drowning in water, and the other person who tries to rescue them is also drowning in water, then they are both drowning. So you can't pull somebody out of water if you're drowning yourself. So in a similar way, the worldly gods cannot really protect you. So then you might think that, but then when we do those, protector offering practices, those drink offerings, these offerings include wisdom beings and also worldly beings, so wisdom protectors and worldly protectors. And the way we regard the worldly protectors is like a friend or like a servant. And that is why we have said in the beginning we have to visualize ourselves as the Yiram deity. And then we ask them to perform certain activities. So Rinpoche had said also yesterday that the protectors are all an aspect of the enlightened activities of the Buddha. So, however, those worldly gods or protectors cannot grant us true protection on an ultimate level. So the only ultimate source of protection, the undeceiving source of refuge, are the Buddha, Dharma, and the Sangha. So the Buddha, who is the teacher or the state of Buddhahood that we want to attain, the Dharma is the path and the Sangha is the companion, and they all rely on each other. The ultimate refuge, however, is the Buddha. And the Dharma is what we practice in order to come to that state. In the Uttara Tantra, it says that the single source of refuge is, on the ultimate level, the Buddha. But until we attain that state of Buddhahood on the ultimate level, we need to rely on the three jewels as our sources of refuge. So they transcend samsara. Anyone who is within samsara cannot protect us from suffering. Maybe they can turn down some temporary hindrances and conditions, but they cannot ultimately grant any protection. And so actually there is no better like hindrance removing ceremony or puja than the refuge. And Pachung Rinpoche would always say, just recite the refuge prayer. And it is really very beneficial if you have no doubts in it. There's also one story in the words of my perfect teacher. It's a story about a thief who tries to steal some things from a monk. And so he kind of sticks his hand in the door and to get the things. And then the monk grabs his hand and he hits him with his staff. And 3 times. The first time he says, I take refuge in the Buddha. Second time, I take refuge in the Dharma. Third time, I take refuge in the Sangha. And then he was able to escape. And so he ran away to hide under a bridge. And so under a bridge is usually, especially at night, is where the non-human spirits go and stay. And so at that time, when he arrived there, they all escaped and didn't dare to go close to him because this thief was in so much pain that he was delirious, and all he could really think of in his delirium was what he just heard. I take refuge in the Buddha, I take refuge in the Dharma, in the Sangha. He didn't really mean it, but he just said it because that's all he could remember. So he would just keep saying that. And so then one spirit dared to come close, and he asked him, so what are you doing? What happened? And so then who are you? And he said, I'm a thief, and I was just beaten. And the Buddha must be clairvoyant to only put 3 kinds of refuge in place. If there would be 4, I would be dead by now. So we can see that even temporarily, this is the kind of protection that we receive. So in essence, now, as it was said in the Uttara Tantra, our ultimate source of refuge to become liberated from samsara is the Buddha. But then to come there, we need the path of the Dharma, and we also need the Sangha. So now we have to take a break. The time has come. So that completes my instructions. But now we have received these instructions from Garchen Rinpoche, and the way he teaches his instructions is really based on his own experience, and that's really very precious. Because whatever he says comes from the knowledge that he has gained from his own personal practice, his own personal experience and realization. And therefore, it is of the greatest benefit to listen to Rinpoche's teachings over and over again. So now we take a break.
다 현대적인 소동하는 특별 레지를 답해서 등이 성숙제 등의 시와되는 이 성숙들 가르치 정을 되는 심지 유모관디 랑게 저는 유모버지에 되는 레사 작업에 가르사 작업에 되는 지지의 명을 저그 드는 더 하는 것은 이 성도가 돌게 피용대 삼체라 네 나가 접종해 보면 이 시점을 갖고 요래 드니 딴 잡으려 따라하면 돼요 얘네한테 다이 성성들 가르치는 정도 되는 뒤걸어 싸움하다는 동의 요담에 타지는 요 밑에 성요래 같이 셈이 성요래 셈이 성때 랑 셈이 변화성 샤르고도 암 인스 지야도 뒤걸어 싸움하다 더블레전드 답해서 더디는다 랑 셈이 유모 제네랑 래 가려서 발마에서 거네 가리지 레카자 철마고 톨마고 그래. 왜냐면 개벨레잖아. 한참 명령고요래. 디바트서 좀 알아서 발레미나 돌게. 저는 메토 상운다 그래. 저스메토 상운 공간에 요래. 이 다당이 성숙제 등에지 랑가 생부터를 찾아 요래. 강에는 다디네 때문에 유모바. 들때니 성숙 신대주가 와들. 다당 소리를 샘는 동이 초스 성나요. 다 rum을 타봐요. 지금 이송소재 등의 셈이나 가르치는 연구요들 다른 그 세구랑 오프라 샤는 박차가 대하고네. 들리는 타다 시랑진 지금 맞이나 봐줘요. 지금 남나요. 참아 자차되어 봐. 대로 샤는 거래. 무슨 박차만 뭐 샤는 보정들 뭐지 뭐지 요래 대변 증상제 뭐도 세요. 코까지 좀 세요. 세기는 지는 만하면 다들 뭐세. 대용을 들이 망오는 거니. 시행들 마탐지디 뭐된다고 통. 참아지는 증상제에 딱 강리잖아. 소소 당리들 다샘지 때를 다샘지 속대 들고 다 당신이 가려 다시 당지 대리는 거래. 대이나 또 센들랑 속이다. 기랑을 안 속냐와. 다 대로 차들 떠먹으랑 던로. 이 유모벌이 이걸로 삼모다 셨다나. 이 유모 대가랑을 들이지 람지디 요래. 들때 담지도 나디니 송스. 대송이 다다 삼나더니 냐와지 가까리 요래들. 요래다 봐도니 나도 지금 만남나니 다 박차카리 상마티나도 무슨 차이는 거 요래. 요 밑에 좀 소소리 시당면은 나냐요 말이. 요 삼진 한쪽 생각을 시당을 민망 독서 지나도 미송스럽는데 대인다고 삼로다나. 들이다라서 소소히 시게 그래. 등에서 다시 시반하기 뒤박차더니 다 몇삼지기되나 다다 참아 두고 차대로 신호 참아 두고 인선 만한 거는 참아 두고 차오라니 받칠 때라고 요에 뒤공실했다 이 성수의 유모라 우리 소수 생뷰의 유모바 대다다 하권이 되니 소사급 랑을 방 사생기절 상하게 납선이면 다 유몽 너는 유몽 같아 선토로 많이 와서 그 유모가 다니지만 제일 sem samte ramji parsin tok ne yangore yum wati ranzo kratri tan ni sonsam roar to ne yangore ti kola salmo tan ti dumi yumi sosu ranji yum wade otani jacha jayon do san ti ta chona ta le ju le ji ji le dewe yum wa jiban ta de nga le masa ko ti ni sonsu de ka pe cha na xie ba na ni tang de le ta ju ju mo na ka ri so me ti ta mu shi sha ng le 되나 우리 세울 거는 상못하나 드링스 될 사람을 들이 상못하나 들도나 뉴머 디 라족 뉴머는 저는 깨버렸지
Dharma friends, we were speaking about the stages of the path, and so we spoke about the difficulty of finding a precious human body, and then once we found it, then we also learn about its impermanence and death. And then when we die, we do not just disappear, but there are future lives. So then next we come to the reflection on karma. So it's here on verse number 8. The Buddha taught that all the unbearable suffering of the lower realms is caused by wrongdoing. Therefore, never act wrongfully, even at the cost of your life. This is the way of a bodhisattva. So where do those lower realms, these 3 lower realms, come from, really? They arise from the afflictive emotions of sentient beings. So afflictive emotions arise in the mind, and one acts on them with body and speech. So one accumulates karma, and according to whatever karma is accumulated, corresponding result will ripen. So here we reflect on the suffering of the 3 lower realms, and then the happiness, the benefits of the higher realms. So if we don't really think about this and learn about this, it will be very difficult to develop trust in that. Now, there's all sorts of different views in this world. When we talk about where do these 3 lower realms come from, now, first of all, to really understand that, we need to think, first of all, we need to understand suffering. So first we need to decide that. Is there suffering or is there no suffering? Otherwise, we will have doubts in our mind. For example, some people say that it's all just the mind. So even if it's the mind now, whatever is appearing to you, whatever suffering circumstance, now we need to find out, is this my own self-projection, or did in fact somebody else create that? So the Buddha had taught that all the unbearable suffering of the lower realms is caused by wrongdoing. It's caused by our afflictive emotions and the karma, the actions that we have committed, driven by these afflictions. So this term wrongdoing, and literally also implies something that will fall back upon you. So whatever you send out will fall back upon you. And also, if you practice virtue, what will fall back upon you is happiness. If you practice generosity and ethical discipline and patience, then the results of the happiness in the higher realms will ripen. So all of these actions are like the seeds of a flower. These are the causes. And it all comes from the self-grasping in the mind. From self-grasping arise the afflictive emotions, and from these afflictive emotions then appear the lower realms that are so difficult to bear. So difficult to bear, unbearable. Now, even if we, in this life now, in this body, if we just experience just the slightest discomfort or pain in our bodies or our minds, that already is unbearable for us. So on the other hand, we say that, oh, the lower realms are just the mind. So we need to understand where this experience of suffering that we do experience comes from. So it is actually the manifestation of one's own karmic imprints within one's own mind. For example, a person who is very angry, when they dream at night, then they will have dreams where everyone appears as an enemy. So whatever imprint there is in the mind will become projected, basically. It also happened to myself. For example, when I was young, a boy, there's this kind of large bug, like insect in Tibet, this little creature. And I was really afraid of that. And whenever I saw that, I want to kill it. So I was so afraid of it that every time I had a dream, it always came in my dream. There was this creature again. And not just one, many appeared. And then I would see them all over the place and I would be afraid. So that is this mind of aversion. And the force of this aversion leads to hostility or hatred. It is said that the hell realm is the natural projection of one's own hatred. The hungry spirit realm is the natural projection of one's greed or stinginess. And the animal realm, the natural projection of ignorance. So if you think about it very carefully, every time an afflictive emotion arises, you recognize that what we just described here is already, these negative lower realms are inherent within that afflictive emotion. We can see how its nature appears. When this afflictive emotion arises, it carries with it this nature of hell or hungry spirit and so on. And the root of all that is self-grasping. So if you wonder if hell really exists and all of its suffering, you look at your dreams. Whatever imprint there is in your mind will manifest in your dream. And what manifests then is an actual experience for the time being. So that actually should clear away any doubts as to whether or not these experiences exist, like hell. For a person who doesn't have anger, no hell can appear. If a person is very loving, to them naturally the pure lens will appear. So whatever is in the mind will appear, and the three poisons will project the three lower realms. So if you see that in terms of your dreams, you will develop trust in that. So whatever is in the mind will become projected. A person who is very loving, even now, right now, if somebody is very loving and friendly, everyone will be a friend to them. And then that will also be reflected in their dreams. They will have pleasant dreams. People will appear as friends. So it really has to do with the habits that we create in our minds that will then be projected. And so in this way, recognize the afflictive emotions one by one as they arise in your mind. According to the path of individual liberation, we need to abandon these afflictions. In the Bodhisattva path, they are transformed, and in the Vajrayana path, they are practiced with. But in brief, whatever path you follow, they all are methods for those afflictions to not remain within the mind. And so again, the root of these afflictions is self-grasping. On the other hand, if you cultivate love, love is the root of the 6 paramitas. So when you think about that, then that should lead to some certainty that you understand that if I allow these afflictions to remain in my mind, then with 100% certainty, it will lead to a certain corresponding result. If you gain certainty in that fact, then trust in karma will arise. And then whenever an afflictive emotion arises, you will instantly recognize that. You will recognize it before you act out on it with your body and your speech. Because you remember what you learned from, for example, the scriptures. For example, the Bodhisattva explains in great detail the suffering of the 3 lower realms. And just as it is explained in those scriptures, this is exactly how it will actually be. It will actually be experienced in just that way. And in fact, much worse than that, when we really think about an actual experience. So now when you think in this way, what should arise is a fear of the afflictive emotions.
시레데 잠빌링이 별은 좋아져서 사차 탐지 강기지도 뭐 미가 좋아져 그 작업도 난 좋아져 말이지 시당지 또 다딘이 진이 다 시당지 맞고 동거지 맞고 동거 커도를 가르치는 정세 또 대사람들이 시당도 차도를 그 심리 시당도 차도를 대망분양도 토를 그때 뭔지 레그 자체 차지 진 그만다 다디 매망터제도 무슨 용고를 대사람 따는 대사다 무슨 뭐를 떠먹을 실에 다 들어오래 맞다 들어오는 냠도 요래 야 그래도 또 가리 또 먹지 받다 준비를 지치매가 내 준비 하마고 되레시 들이 시당을 안 속디 시당지 매번 맞아 버리 나타나 버리지 누구보다 나타나 버리지 들이 이제 샘 코랑 대식이 뭐 땅마땅 쳐다보는 얘네요 뉴모한테 매번 맞으러 대식이 뭐 코랑 냠듯이 샘 사제 이제 동행ኛ도 같이 용고 그래 용 차지지 대식이 뭐 고제 시용만 저 다른 양타도 다른 거래 배네 따다 사야지 뭐 건지 양배나 까봤던 게 들거나요 대게 대식이 냠다고 말했어 까봤던 하는 거만 성도는 거되느냐 뒤에도 상처대요 대식이 뭐 그러면 통은 타속 사지고 막 토론 저래서 빼대다 대회나 드니다다 레시바디 다른 게 그것도 사족신 대소치 머리지 그 삼바든 이제게 되와 소탈고 빵와지 그래서 잠깐 소탈고 빵와지 랑가 동네 쪽으로 인제나 다니 뭐 빵고래지 대상세고 들어와서 상세고 들나 삼바든 이제 세청 못하는 유모가 도들한지 그들이 파시리라는 저도를 배는 막 벌써 세와그라는 용왕 저를 상식이 들어와서 상하가 냠슬이 봐 상하 집에 따와지 하고서 터나 실은 님에가 하고서 터나 제일집에 나지 님에는 드니 용바테 차당 도방 우고든 심하지 따와 제제형을 제로 탐나보다 제면 용모 제형을 제주나 님에가 나지 님에가 하고 따와들 때마 탑통나 그 용모 실토고요래 별로 저기는 고소라는 저래시 저는 용모 중시가거든 방토고 때리더니 탑성을 때니 용모가 강했죠 용모 중대 양자 되나 그 용모가 더 토고요래 중대 말이나 들이 다지산이 좀 그게 뭐요 동에 대한 도고래 돼 말이 맞제대로 동에 용나 동에 뒤 자와제 용모바래 용모바티 나사다 동에서 용모데 그런 소로 봤다 그래 별로 샥주제 봤다 그래 미송스는 휘강다 왜 샥주제 살면 그 독자들 말이지 독사들 탈문도 될 사람들이 놀러도 메뉴도 오면 다른 거 다 대화를 거도 그렇다 삼바든 이제 다바든 이제 쇼다 그랬어 다 조과를 쇼다 그랬어 말아비 소로 받던 조과 공 랑소로 받는 시랑 예당지 왕도 마동스 예당지 다 삼지지 뭐요래 다랑 타바가 자와 내와도 되지고 삼지리 석조거든 또 타도 지들이 시랑지 저 가리 조리들 별 조 펜치 로 망구르는 조고 얘나요 네마티로 진 차도를 때니 컨트롤을 하듯이 다 제가 사찰매도 적절히 더바테도 시랑 왕치고 지하는 거래 대회를 들이다가 탑에서 집안들이 삼대회 갔다 온 거예요. 내가 도시에 내가 이제 대회를 들이겠다는 것을 다 산속으로 넘어가지나 다 삼대에서 다친번 막 신이 들이대라 다 저거 세영 그러나 다주 고통말한지 대로 담자선 건도 속과는 대답을 전했더니 유무바대 동네를 제봐 양도 쏠러도 들이 유무바 도저히 좀 다들로도 나저 건복하는 이 성수되던 거 양도 겁니 유무 새로 찌박타도 다 잡아려면 이들이 새로 좋았지 저봐서 연구를 했지.
So we need to reflect on the like the kind of the function or the activity that what happens when this afflictive emotion arises. Now, for example, in this world, there are some places where there is a lot of wars and conflict, and now what is happening there? So you might just think it's just those people who fight with each other, or there's two countries who fight with each other. But it's actually not the people or the country that fight with each other if you think about it. It's actually is the afflictive emotion within the mind, which arises from self-grasping, first of all. Because of attachment to the self, you think, I want to be happy, and I don't care what happens to anyone else. And then to ensure your own happiness, you get angry and you get jealous and you act out on that. You accumulate karma. And then these places of war and fighting are places where many people with these similar tendencies come together. So first, there is the previous karma that leads to that. And second, there is the temporary condition. For example, you meet a robber and so on. In any case, when it ripens, then people meet together in a certain place and are bound to experience suffering together. Now, in this world, animals and humans live together. Animals, for example, their predominant affliction is ignorance. So when we think about like how ignorance works, the function of ignorance, and the essence of that is that one doesn't understand karma, one doesn't trust karma, and so on. And then think about the manifestation of hatred. When there is no hatred, actually, there is also no illness and so forth. So actually the real illness, the real disease that we have is hatred and all the afflictive emotions. The mind itself, in its natural state, pure Buddha nature, is like completely clean water. And even though that is the case, even though your true nature is actually Buddha, it is Buddha by nature, Buddha nature, if we do not eliminate these temporary afflictive emotions from the mind, then for the time being, we are bound to experience suffering. And yet, even though you suffer temporarily, in the meantime, Buddha nature itself is beyond birth and death, and it never ceases to be. And eventually, again, it will become liberated. In the Mahamudra teachings, it says, even the darkness of 1,000 aeons is cleared away in an instant of seeing Buddha nature. So Buddha nature is always there, and it can never decline. Even if you wander in the lower realms for a long time, due to the karma accumulated, once that karma becomes purified again, Buddha nature emerges as it is, and eventually it attains enlightenment. So here, what this verse reminds us of is karma, and that the relative bodhicitta is most important to us. So we have said that according to the Bodhisattva path, we transform the afflictions with love and compassion. According to the path of individual liberation in the context of the Refuge vow, for example, we develop fear toward our own suffering, and therefore we abandon the afflictive emotions. On the Bodhisattva path, we transform them with love and compassion. If strong love and compassion arise, then naturally the 6 afflictions become the 6 paramitas. For example, a mother loves her child, and therefore everything becomes transformed into the nature of love. In the Vajrayana path, we practice with the afflictions. If someone really understands the view of the secret mantra of the Vajrayana, if you understand that the mind is non-dual, if you understand that self and other are inseparable, then you will not cling so much to the afflictive emotions that arise. So, of course, thoughts will arise, and there will arise thoughts of clinging to the true existence of how things appear to you. So it is said that to a yogin, the thoughts appear in the same way as before, as for an ordinary person. But the difference lies in that if you have recognized the view of secret mantra, of non-duality, that even though those thoughts of attachment and anger and so on arise, you still know that self and other are inseparable. You have gained stability in the view, and therefore you will be able to eliminate the afflictive emotion, even though it arises. It is just like you do see a TV show, but you wouldn't really get angry at a TV character because you know it's not real. So it would be just similar to that. But either way, the point of all the different levels of the path is that we have to get rid of the afflictive emotions. In the individual liberation, we have to first of all we have to remember the faults of the afflictions over and over again. Because if we don't remember the faults of the afflictions, we will not be able to get rid of them. So we have to remember those faults again and again, and then when suffering arises, then even though it is unpleasant, is it really something negative? Actually, it is not something negative. The root of all suffering in this life are the afflictive emotions. So whatever it is, whether it is an illness or any kind of other difficulty that you have to endure, by enduring it, you are paying back your karmic debt, and you're purifying this karma. And in a sense, it is just like undergoing a surgery, a necessary thing. Actually, the 3 lower realms are like a hospital, like a surgical facility where you do surgery. They're not necessarily something negative. And once it is completed, the surgery is completed, in the end you will be released again. So it is just like that. So we do have to experience suffering in brief, but we can see it from this perspective. And when it arises, then we remind ourselves to make an effort in cultivating love and compassion and cultivating patience. Milarepa had said that the practice patience even at the cost of your life. The hatred leads to the unbearable suffering of the lower realms, or anger. So how that happens is that when anger arises, it is that it severs the life force of liberation. And how it does that is what is really severed, what is destroyed when hatred arises is the only cause of happiness, that is love. When anger or jealousy arise, it destroys love. So how does that happen? For example, there is a couple who has spent together many years, and then one day something happens, and one person gets jealous, and then they get angry, and then they get so angry that they're even able to kill the person that they have loved so much for all these years. So all of that love has become very intense hatred. So this is how the life force of liberation is cut through when anger arises, because it destroys your love. All the love that you have had is destroyed by it. And this love is your only cause of happiness, temporarily and also ultimately. It is destroyed by hatred. And so this is what we are also mainly introduced to when we are taking the Bodhisattva vow. Here we need to recognize the preciousness of love. And here we are told that even if someone were to come and threaten to kill you, do not get angry, but firmly hold on to your Bodhisattva vow. And so in this way, think about each of the afflictive emotions that arise and the related suffering that is related to that affliction. So each of those afflictive emotions, think about their fault every time it arises. So this is how we train in the context of the 4 thoughts that turn the mind. We think about the suffering of the 3 lower realms in particular. And especially you think of it in a context of an afflictive emotion. So the moment an afflictive emotion arises, instantly you should recognize it as like a thief or a robber who is somebody who is attacking, or somebody, a criminal. So the moment it arises, this kind of recognition must arise within you.
or Ragamajina Chigina Koyong in you, Toxin, Delazawa, Yina Nubasawa, Tadajina Jizawa. The Angina Nubatan to the Gisaya Mason, Pombos Madonna, Ranki Jiba, Yina Jizawa, Yiba Gisaya Mason, or Tisana, Miguel to Gisaya, the Watogri, Tama Shini, Lamsang Numo, Jima Tata, Lumare, Masako, Hakun, Numo Tuning Muzon. Kasi rang be do a dosoma tat do ba gongda terang sana to sada sana de gongda she te jina te pharo ba sha kwa le na ya ma le na ya te phiu chin bo yo le te phiu ka le da ta za be ling de na be na ma ka shi le dong yi mang bo yong go yo le ja khap na ma ge na sa le dong yi na ka shi na sa na mi ju je o tra so ya ba bi gang yu ji ro kwa je so 야, 내가 소송 내가 동네들 졸토 그래. 그 졸토 바데 강이 딱 건조선 거 진리스. 가리 건조선 거 레좀 데지 있는 판에 레좀 데지 가면 되고 제성시 하고 들 샤과 제소리 되라. 샤과지 자타타 그러면 양양 짤 샤과지 양 먹게 가지고 그래. 걔를 양 샤과지 양 동네들 탈 이때 병 나도 오늘 또 소트지 탈을 야. 이 도게 마종 말이 용나 도게 타는 거예. 내가 뭐 샤과지나. 네, 이거 졸은 저요. 양양한테 샤과지 때리 유모 어디 총도 넣었고 그래. 내 샤과지야 기치 보여래지. 마음으로 등에서 쪽쪽 듣고 요래.
And so, of course, sometimes we can't often help but do something negative with our body and speech. So it won't happen that we will not do anything wrong with our body and speech. But even if we do something wrong out of habit and so forth, it is said that in general, wrongdoing has no good quality, but if it had one, then it would be their potential to be purified through confession. That's the only quality of wrongdoing. So even though you do commit a wrong, if you should recognize that and feel regret. Anything that you do with body, speech, and mind that causes harm toward other sentient beings, that causes them to suffer, that is violent towards them, and so on. All of that, sometimes we have no choice but to do it, and we do it. But not just ourselves doing it, sometimes we do it, or you ask somebody else to do it for you, so you in a way incite others to do it. For example, sometimes people stir up problems between people and so on by slandering them and so forth, even if it's very indirect. In the Sri Skanda Sutra, it mentions that actually even rejoicing in someone's misdeeds will lead you to obtain the same misdeed. So it says there that whether you do it or you ask someone else to do it, so you incite someone to do it, or you even just rejoice in someone else doing it, that will lead to you will lead to the attainment of this same negativity on your own part. So what you should do is that the moment an afflictive emotion arises, before you act out on it, before you accumulate karma, recognize it. Often we can't help ourselves when we do something wrong. And when that happens, you should recognize that immediately and feel regret and apologize, for example, right away without allowing a day to pass by. And here it doesn't actually matter whether or not the other person accepts your apology. Just the apology itself is beneficial. And how is it beneficial? Now, in this world, there's a lot of suffering. There's a lot of suffering on a larger scale in countries, and people have their own personal difficulties. For example, there are some people who get sick, and then they do a medical treatment and they get better. Or some people encounter some financial difficulties, and then someone comes along and helps them out. Or some people are unemployed and then they find a job. So some people have a problem and then something happens that helps them out, helps them become free from their problem. So why does that happen? That is the kindness of the three jewels. It is because in a previous life you have done something wrong, but due to the grace of the three jewels, you know karma, and therefore you did recognize that was wrong. So you recognized that, you felt remorse, you confessed. And even though the entire misdeed is not completely purified, because you confessed it, you will find some liberation later when it ripens. And the reason why it keeps ripening anyways, it's because we do confess, but then we do it again. And then we confess again, then we do it again, and so forth. So it goes on like that. And so that's why because we do it, it ripens, but because we confess, there is a way out when it ripens. For example, in my own case, my own life was already protected 8 times in this life, in this way, again and again. So we can't avoid suffering, but then if we have confessed, there will be some way out. And also in this way, the negative circumstance then is transformed into a positive circumstance. And it helps you then to eliminate your own afflictive emotions. So it's very important that you think about this again and again, because this is really the way to be protected from all kinds of suffering in the future.
다들지 고할 아그시라도
고바래요.
스스로요. 예발아.
고바. 고바.
아그카도. 스스로요. 따뜻시바이 되라. 스스로요. 따뜻시바이 유저적인 적부치기 남양 문제를 답을 공방조 도대 예와다 자세라니 송. 이제서 봐서도 사고사든 살았었는지 너는 코르센지는 순고요래 대화디 노용가를 때문에 대화다다 무슨 도라처럼 자라서 체디 온데가 기모 차고 서로 찌는 되고요래 체디 기모 차서는 저 sab지 되는 되고요래 체디 기모 차고는 같이 있는 것들이 놀러도 촉시 오는 말이 그래서 년치 매번 내가 제도 내가 만드는 거니 칼아요 말이랑 내리지 배tung 되라 그래 네 대화인데 자지서 봐신지 너가 같이 지내는 앞에 양도 되는지 다들 나사서 빼는 칼아 나마가 같이 골라대는 거 같이 만나들이 기초들이 나사 이거 딱들 칼아고 양다 나사고 그래 대 탐제에도 조례 조치 버리면이 랑게 초딩장장 조세성이 다른 스틱당이요 말이에요. 굳이 조지는 뭐라고다 망보요래. 실제 싫어요래. 다루랑도 레조치 모레스. 랑게 네가 배송 좀 거래도 랑게 좀 그때 기왕 문제래. 메나 개래면은 좀 받아는 줄 알아서 레면은 막 토야요 말이지. 이런 랑게 투투게 랑게 배송 좀 나한테 하자 다 치워 많이 봐. 다 아니서 많이 와서. 산지에 하장 장 타치와 많이 봐. 하장 또 많이 타치와 많이 랑 찾긴 좀 주고 돼요. 사람들 내가 되는 힘 보면 봐. 사람들은 양대 변나. 나 모두 쓰나. 다사선 양동에 베시다这18个这样做了没大吧你我没吧这是新差的就差的有嘞这哪样么就他们光做送他儿的他现在女我往那个泰国都用了些把这把让你恰当了什么现在女我往那个泰国有嘞女我咋个哪里他们俺那个上面的他呢你有没有他现在太阳过来一瓶的老是用了对了上车什么的一瓶的老加上进那样这里让了包让了都说有吧人出去有吧我们人这的吧人上中这的吧让个是刚刚家的吧让个地方了没差吧这到见了都是现在刚你太过他话的刚那里但这个一瓶老的恐怕家的了一瓶老的切动的这呢他的当你他的有的这里他呢那个他人嘛的那个头里中了他用过有的这就头里他话的就头里他用的呢别人咱们出去咱那样可是了东西刚刚朋友们人那他们什么东西没有的那个头里的话那里我都上学什么当里上把等你也的那个就一个他了他都在上学什么人了的多单位地方头了他都上街工坊那个他都那个平房他都地方什么都是赶紧谈过的现在这个老人呢爬着头过的招聘就你了我做活的要不过空要不查过空要不查的这个身体是不切的那空要不过说比这老的被砸起过来的你老个空了平个俺来平个的那俺你这里就空了是把这我那平个上的空就在什么就我查个有的是这下过是不是就往下过来到呢我做结果是真的判的人平老的那他的当你太阳或者国把大国家我给你人平老那国把家透过来的人平的老的你个大头里什么他说他这光芒南阳我们觉得这他话是人们也在这里什么都不杀上人们也就是他都有来的别人的当然你听说我说那这个是我们这位娘家说的多么那这别人老人都把这个送从来没这个这个精神这里上把这把的多么这个当个用来的这里他们烧这个这逻辑蛮不用的吧老你他这张去不对的有的样的就这个过到这现在这啥有的他这种不用嘛的就这个过现在这些呢他去要去这差的有的这些多的当地呢他过来是
So then next we come to verse number 9. It says, like a dewdrop on a blade of grass, the happiness of the three worlds vanishes in but an instant. Strive for the supreme state of never-changing liberation. This is the way of a bodhisattva. So those three worlds, or the three worlds, refers to on the surface, above and below, but basically it really refers to all samsaric sentient beings. And the happiness, the pleasure that they experience is contingent on their encountering of the five sense objects. So when they encounter forms, smell, taste, touch, and so on, that leads to an experience of bliss, of pleasure, to those samsaric beings. And that is only, it only pertains to this very life. It's all about this life. They think that I want to be happy. Basically, all of this comes really down to this samsaric existence, comes down to this state of mind. I want to be happy in this life. There's only this life. So then, however, in order to really become happy, often people run after various pleasures constantly, and no matter how much they gain, they never feel content about it. They never have enough. So because they never have enough, they have to work very hard day and night. If they don't work, they don't have any money. If they have no money, they have no food to eat. They have nothing to buy. So they have to work very hard all the time. They make a great effort. And that effort is only in order to gain those pleasures of this life only. And so they enjoy the 5 sense pleasures. And actually, so it says here, it is like a dewdrop on a blade of grass. So since there is no contentment, people like to have a lot of things of any kind. For example, if they prepare food, there have to be many different kinds of food on the table. But actually, if there's too much of a variety of different foods, that often leads to all kinds of illness. And so then they're very health conscious, and they try to avoid all kinds of food, and that leads to other kinds of illness. But actually, even though we are very conscious about our health, what really happens ultimately is really determined by our karma, and we don't have so much control over it. So even if you're very healthy and live a very healthy lifestyle, still, and you really fearless about anything, when it's the karma to die, then there's many people, there's many stories who die anyways at an early age. Then one has to die. Or, for example, if you make the greatest effort to accomplish something, of course, we have to do that. We have to do things to accomplish things. But whether or not we are successful in that also depends on our karma. Depends on whether or not we have created the virtuous causes in the past life, like generosity or having practiced patience. If we do not possess the merit from previous lives, then even if we try hard, we will not accomplish what we want to accomplish. So of course we need to make to some degree, we need to make an effort in our activities, of course, but whether or not they are accomplished is really depending on our karma. And either way, the Buddha himself had said, in whatever we do, we should not fall into either of the two extremes. So we should not fall into the extreme of self-indulgence, and nor should we fall into the extreme of self-mortification. But we should practice contentment and enjoy things in measure, in moderation. For example, you really like to eat sweet things, so you eat it because you like it, but once you ate it, again you suffer because then it's gone. So this is the kind of happiness, the pleasure we experience in those 3 worlds of samsara. It is all impermanent. It lacks any essence, and it all becomes a cause for developing clinging attachment. So therefore it says, strive for the supreme state of never-changing liberation. So liberation, what we need to be liberated from are the afflictive emotions in the mind. And not being liberated from them, we continue to be attached to anything, the 5 sense pleasures, or people, enemies, and friends, and so on. And the root of all these afflictions that we develop is self-grasping. There's this constant thought of, I want this or that, I want everything. And so when that is there, then naturally all the afflictive emotions arise. And these need to be liberated, and they are liberated through the altruistic mind. So someone with an altruistic mind is a bodhisattva. It literally also means like a hero, a courageous being. The stronger your love for others, the greater also is your courage. The greater is your patience with others. Also, the greater is your contentment with all kinds of sense pleasures. And the greater is your ability to do things for others, or to give them things, or to give them love, or to endure all kinds of hardships for them. So what must be liberated is self-grasping, and the first step towards that is to cultivate an altruistic mind. And when you become liberated from self-grasping, then you truly are liberated. First, in a temporary sense, by being liberated into the 3 higher realms. So that is the cause of birth in the 3 higher realms. For example, in a temporary sense, there are people who have survived the world wars and actually were completely unaffected by all of that suffering. And they still do not experience much suffering in their bodies or their minds. So that's the happiness, temporary happiness of the higher realms that comes from the relative bodhichitta, or love and compassion. That's the temporary liberation. And then ultimately, once the mind becomes really infused with bodhicitta, you see the ultimate truth and you attain the state of enlightenment. So therefore, the altruistic mind is the temporary benefit and the ultimate happiness. So in brief, what we must become liberated from is this self-cherishing mind. For example, how that looks like between 2 friends, for example. If you have a companion, then you would think that I want him to be happy. As long as he is happy and things turn out well for him, that's enough. That kind of state of mind, that is truly precious. So this mind is very precious. You want to help that person. And actually, that state of mind also helps yourself the most. And in that way, both of you will be happy together. If you really have a sincere wish to make your companion happy, then with 100% certainty, your companion will be happy. He will feel that because on the basis, the mind is already one. So it is this I, this me, that we have to become liberated from. And the first step into that direction is to cultivate an altruistic mind. That's the path that we need to walk in order to become liberated temporarily into the 3 higher realms. And ultimately, we attain the state of enlightenment. We attain the state of no return to samsara. So in this way, beings are liberated gradually. Lord Jigten Sumgön had said, keeping a single vow leads to the result of nirvana. So if you just keep one single vow, for example, your entire life you keep the vow of not engaging in sexual misconduct, then through this cause, this will remain with you. And in all future lifetimes, you will not give up this vow until you attain enlightenment. There are actually many stories about that, in particular in the Vinaya teachings. And also Khenpo Tenzin can tell you more about that. There is much more about that to be said, especially speaking about karma. We can go into great depths, actually. In fact, the teachings on karma really are the best of all the teachings. So in brief, liberation here means that we need to become liberated from self-grasping.
다다고 삼지 충충이 문제 노래 강린 잡지 시초가리 들어서 타기 타와서 있나네들이 적기좀이 탐지라 그 마땅 보여듯이데 코바지 유니 마파요레 요니 중에 들 마땅 보여 들 마땅 보여 삼지 바는 상제 삼지 바들이 토요레 때렸더니 대답을 막 벌써 삼제디 코와 통만 매반 코와 통만 다 빠르들이 진체 매바들이 삼제 있다고 소리 다다를 뛴다랑 뜻이 아마 되리지 오 되게는 뜻이 아마 좀 많이 봐 다시 지금 또 소사서 기능이 탐지에 대해서 맞아 보이 삼제지 요리 다다다 때문에 도구도 속차를 든 삼제지 대답적으로 대발이 시대로 되니 마다 보이 삼제 대나 이 삼제디 이게는 다다른 거 많이 마음이 삼제 하자 총총을 생기 탐제되다고 코와 통만면 다 마음만 되고 직자요 말이 돈다고 우리 생적이 당 Homage. 그것도 다 파마마디오 진짜 요 말이 이 사지가 만남 카다냐 무슨지기와 다 장지권에 상로도는 들어서 차탐지 때동에서는 뒤뒤 말고 선제대 말아 대성모도는 들으시면서 자치를 또 탑차지게 되리 대동네양 되리 들이대 만도는 아지지도 타이스지도 산속습지 자세라니 디삼지 제대로 치서는 다진이 말 파장조 이비로 제대로 처쳤나 들이 다진 파장조 there's 장처 이비로 제대로 지면서 바오창을 그 텐데스니가 지어서는데 바오창 들이 이놈라 그 산지 바오가 산지 탐진을 바오 탐진을 산지에 코와 마동과도 선지점지 따고 자고 어디 따고 바오 좀 심자고들이 철치에서 때로 차용을 상처 선바지 인핑으로 제땅 때로 바오 창을 해야지 대 양단도 진조 당스랑 요베 파마도 조지베더니 진진 설진제 랑스지지요래 인상제지와디 랑가도 치보이나 하고 거래지 마콘도 지아요 마콘가도 치보이대 말이
So we need to walk the path on the basis of love. And to do that, we first must recognize even the slightest feeling of love. So what is even the slightest feeling of love? For example, even little animals have it, and all beings with or without a body have it. It's the love shared between a mother and her child. So since we are born in samsara, anyone who is born in samsara and who perceives that duality has this relation to beings. There is this, everyone has a mother and has experienced this motherly love. So that's this love that we first need to identify. And the Buddha said that this is how we develop love, by first remembering the kindness of our mothers. And then we think that since beginningless time in samsara up until now, all the time continuously, we have had a loving mother. So now in this lifetime, we have a kind mother. But it's not only this mother, but all sentient beings have been our mothers in previous lives. Beings with a body, without a body, all have been our mothers. So you develop love for all of them. For example, nowadays we can see on TV different animal shows that show how animals also treat each other with this love and this affection. And in that moment, they do experience peace and well-being, happiness. So that's the love between a mother and her child. So this love must be recognized first, this love between a mother and her child. That is very limited now, and it needs to be increased by recognizing that it's not just this mother, but all beings without exception have been my mother since beginningless time in samsara. And actually, from the ultimate perspective, our minds are one. We are never really separate. And on the relative level, all beings have been our parents. So that's what the Buddha said. He speaks about all mother sentient beings. So you bring that to mind, you think about the animals, for example, and the suffering that they experience. And never separate from this moment of love that you have recognized and increase it. Apply various methods to make it vast, to increase it. So that's very important. And so that's actually the next verse. Now, about thinking about our mothers who have loved you since beginningless time. Now, this reminds us of increasing our love, and when love increases, self-grasping diminishes. So this term bodhichitta or changchupsem means to purify self-grasping and to cultivate an altruistic mind. And then one becomes a bodhisattva, bodhisattva is a hero. The greater one's altruistic mind, the greater is also one's courage in this and future lives. And the greatest hero really is the Buddha himself, because he had the courage to say that I will care for sentient beings for as long as samsara exists. That is great love, and this is how it has to become when one becomes a bodhisattva. And so to become that, to cultivate such bodhicitta, the Buddha said that we have to first remember the kindness of our mothers, of others, and then also develop a wish to repay that kindness. So for that, we first think about our parents mainly. So then when you think about it, when you cultivate love for others, who really is the kind one here? You might think that I'm kind because I love them, so I'm kind to them. But actually, this love is your own greatest benefit. You're really benefiting yourself the most with that. And they really are kind to you because through them you were able to cultivate love, which benefits you the most. So this is how we must cultivate love, by remembering the kindness of others and then wishing to repay that kindness.
Everybody's on that thing chair. Oh, money, baby, home. Oh, money, baby. Oh, money, baby, home. Oh, money, baby, home. Oh, money, baby, home. Oh, money, baby. Oh, money, baby, home. Oh, money, baby. Oh, money, baby.